it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crab, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, welcome. It is 4 minutes after the hour on this 30th day of June, and I don't know what happened this day in history, except my favorite grandson was born 15 years ago today. And I have many grandsons, as you do, but I've always made it clear to all my kids that I love you all the same, but this one's my favorite. And I think they're all okay with it. At least they haven't, come after me with a hatchet. But Luke, Grandpa loves you. I'm so glad you love the Lord. I'm so glad you have a heart for mission. And I just want you to know that you bless my life so much. I'm so thankful to have you in my life. I love you so very much. We'll go out and have a chili dog this weekend. Okay, buddy? I love you. All right, so today is going to be a great show. Shane Vanderhart from Caffeinated Thoughts, which is a program we run at 8 a.m.
Yeah, 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Saturdays.
Yeah. By the way, very good show.
And it's also blogged too, caffeinatedthoughts.com.
Yeah, and that's how you were kind of one of the original bloggers on the conservative side, weren't you?
Yeah, I've been blogging since 2006, and yeah, they look, other bloggers look at me. It's like, man, you're old school.
Yeah, yeah, I can say things with more than 144 characters. And so Shane is here, and we're going to talk a little politics and a little current events with, of course, our co-host Tom Coates, whose wonderful wife had a birthday the other day.
Yes.
And you did good. You took her to Adventureland with all the grandkids.
That was her desire. We spent the night at Adventureland Hotel.
Inn,
whatever, and with 2 indoor swimming pools. All 7 of the grandkids were there. Now, 6 of them spent the night. The 1-year-old didn't spend the night. But we had the other 6 all in this.
Just the 2 of you?
Yeah. And
oh my gosh.
Then the 2 daughters joined us the next morning, and yesterday we did Adventureland, and actually it was a great weather day.
Yeah.
And the lines were short. Mondays are apparently a small turnout day, so we can get on. And I found out there are just some rides I'm not suited for, Matt.
Yeah, like which one?
Well, the Dragon. My little 4-year-old took me on the Dragon, and he thought it was a great time. And I thought I had a lawsuit pending, is what I thought.
That's one of their newer coasters, isn't it?
Man, I banged back and forth and then turned upside down a couple times. And I thought I'd get a call from my lawyer.
I remember when the tornado was like the big thing. Oh gosh. Now, I'm surprised it's still running. I mean,
the Dragon.
Wooden coasters make me
Dragon
nervous.
was well named. It didn't take long, but it sure knocked the bejeevers out of you.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, I am in. What's that word? I'm protesting Adventureland because they took the silly silo away. And I thought the silly silo was the coolest thing in the world.
I always had fun while I was on it.
Yeah.
I always hated it afterwards.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because...
Well, as an alcoholic, I walked that way anyway, so it didn't bother me.
Yeah, me and spinning and keeping my lunch down was never a good combination.
I don't know if you guys remember this, but Amy and I, at the Dot, so this goes back to 95 or 96, we rode that 107 and a half times. And they stopped the coaster on the top, and the Army guys came and repelled or up.
Yeah.
Anyway, they took us down on ropes, and we went 107.5 times.
Oh, boy.
And I got to tell you, I'll never, ever, 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 ever again. If I had not publicized that and wouldn't look like such a chicken, That was horrible.
Oh, that
absolutely horrible.
Well, and Mac, I told you off air, the highlight. Now, we had a lot of interesting rides and things with the kids, but the highlight was when my wife walked up with one of my grandsons and nobody else around to the young man guessing the ages and the weights.
Yeah.
And he guessed her at 45. Made her day. She immediately texted everybody she knew and said that would have been the guess. And my first observation, I said, it's difficult to do that when your oldest daughter turns 39 this year.
Yeah, well, but and I think you'll admit to this, even on air, you married way above yourself.
Oh, of course.
I mean, I did too.
Yeah.
Did you too?
Yes, of course.
What kind?
There's no other way to answer that.
I was going to say, what kind of man would say, "Oh, I don't know. I'm
I ended up settling,
Yeah, I settled for what I could get. Oh my gosh. I don't think I've ever had anybody say that though.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, not if their spouse is listening because they might spend time on the couch afterwards.
Oh, couch.
Or doghouse or wherever.
I don't know where I'd be.
maybe.
I don't know where I'd be. All right. So, we haven't talked about what we're going to talk about, which is kind of one of the things I do. I do it on purpose most of the time because I want to get first impressions. I don't want somebody to do research. Shane Vanderhard, if I had told him 3 things I wanted to talk about today, would have come in with 12 sheets of paper. And Tom does the same thing. But it's pretty easy to talk this week. The Supreme Court ruling last Friday.
Right.
Monumental for this country. Isn't that fair? Am I putting too much weight on that?
No, I think it's definitely a landmark decision.
There were 2 in 2 days that were
with
significant.
the Obamacare.
The Obamacare one, and help me understand that ruling, because I don't understand that as well as I probably should.
Well, the first time we thought that they would knock it out. You remember that?
Yes.
And Roberts came to the rescue and found out instead of requiring Americans something that the Constitution would allow them to require, he called it a tax, in which the Obama administration had adamantly denied all the way through that this was a tax. And that was only Roberts found to save it. Well, I thought we were going to give him a mulligan and allow him to, because the law clearly states in there, I haven't read the 2,000 plus pages, but I'm told by people that have, that it clearly states that you cannot give subsidies to residents in states that did not set up their own exchanges.
Right.
And the majority of states did not, like Iowa did not set up their own exchange. And here comes Roberts, rather than taking the mulligan, said, "Oh, I'm sorry." No, he doubles down on it, and he gets Justice Kennedy, who voted against it in the first place, to come with it. Kennedy had tried to get Roberts to come the right way to begin with, and failed. Now, Roberts got Kennedy to swing around, and it was a 6-3 decision on the Obamacare. And the Republicans breathed a collective sigh of relief because they would have felt like they were going to be blamed for the... How many millions of Americans we talking about got some kind of there were 40,000 in Iowa, I guess.
A lot of millions. So they didn't want to be put on the spot. I thought it was an ideal time to tear this monstrosity down, Shane. I agree. And the thing that really frustrated me about the ruling was how the Supreme Court has now moved from... I think they already had the mentality, we can make law from the bench. But now it's like, we can also fix laws that we like.
Yes.
In order to make it work. So it seems like the Frank Cannon, American Principles in Action, put it best. He says, we need to help these justices expand their vocabularies because they don't seem to understand what a tax and what a state and what marriage means. They're confused about the definition of those words, and with the Obamacare ruling, which was King v. Burwell, it was interesting to me how how many times they said that a federal exchange was actually a state exchange, or excuse me, I probably got that backwards.
Yeah, state exchange is actually
federal exchange. So it's like wow.
We're blowing state lines out.
Right. Let's just make stuff up in order to get this to work right.
Well, remember that Robert Bork was up for the nomination, and the Democrats, who when the shoe is on the other foot, say, well, it's the president's right to choose who he wants to. You just need to go along. They absolutely attacked Robert Bork, impugned his personal integrity, attacked him every way they could, and they finally knocked him out of there. Shane,
I remember
you have
that.
to have a memory to go and a time to go back.
I was a kid then, but
who
I do
was the
remember
one that replaced him?
Was it Thomas?
Kennedy.
Kennedy.
The very
okay.
swing vote we're cursing now.
I'm trying to remember when Thomas was
Can you
appointed.
imagine what a difference it would have been had we had Judge Robert Bork on there
would
instead
be
of
an
a
entirely
Kennedy?
different court.
It would be an entirely different court. We
we
haven't even gotten to the gay marriage ruling. Obamacare, the abomination that it is, would have never gotten to this far.
Right, and I can't remember who I saw write this, but they mentioned and they said this is a court that's a political court now because nobody questioned how the four justices, not Kennedy, but Ginsburg and I'm not
the
gonna
other
go,
four,
Sotomayor and whatever, how they were going to vote. It's like they don't come and look at a court or a case and judge. They come and vote. They vote along the lines of what does the left want. And almost every single court case has been that way they've approached when we've had a 5-4 ruling.
Did you like Scalia's reference that it's no longer should be called Obamacare?
The SCOTUS care?
Exactly. Yeah,
I agree.
SCOTUS care.
They fixed it.
How
they own it.
Shane, talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. How in the heck did they make this ruling?
Honestly, I don't know if I could tell you. It's appalling to me. It was such a bad ruling that it's just amazing to me that it's going to come down. Historically going to be one of the worst rulings the Supreme Court has ever made, with the marriage ruling alongside that, up against Doe v. Bolton and Roe v. Wade too. They just created. They changed. Well, in the case of marriage, they created a constitutional right that doesn't exist. With Burwell v. King, they fixed a law that they liked that should have been ruled unconstitutional because the law was clear. So I don't. It's amazing to me, other than that you have a court that's become overly partisan.
Well, if it were overly partisan in regards to, go back to what I said about Bork. Bork was a strict constructionist.
Right.
And if it were the majority that adhered to the principles that that the Supreme Court and the whole judicial system is kind of predicated upon, I wouldn't have a problem with it. If I'm an activist, not liking, and I put Obama in that same category, Shane,
right.
Not liking America, how it was founded, how it's been run over the last 200 plus years, then I will be applauding and cheering and marching the streets, as many of them are right now. But it isn't the way our country was set up, not with the checks and balances, not with the structure of the court being how it's supposed to be.
Right. And now the question is, where do we go from here with these rulings? And what kind of a check can be placed on the court? I'm not real confident we're going to have much pushback, unfortunately.
I always go to the I always say the stuff that everybody's thinking and nobody wants to say, so I'm just going to say it. Roberts is on the take. This doesn't make sense. The Obama administration argues the whole time they're presenting this Obamacare to the Congress and to the Senate as this is not a tax. This is not a tax.
Right.
And then they go in front of Judge Roberts and says, oh, it's a tax. Doesn't he have the right at that point to call stinky?
I would think so.
He was the one that found it.
But he didn't.
He was the one that found out it was a tax. He couldn't figure out any other way to make it pass any kind of muster. He said, oh, this is in essence a tax, even though Obama and his minions had been arguing since the inception that it was not a tax.
Right.
So it's not just that he has been, weak-kneed and without a spine. He actually led that charge.
All right, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we'll talk about the other Supreme Court ruling. David Young, when he arrives, Congressman David Young, he's not going to want to get into these conversations, so let's not make him talk about that.
That's fine.
He sent us some stuff that he's very concerned about. I know you've got some stuff, Tom. Mm-hmm. So at the time in which he enters our studio, which should be here in the next 10 minutes or so, we'll cease this talk and start talking about some stuff that's important to the congressman and important to you. 244-0077, that's the number. Frank, the phone's not working today. It works for everybody but you. We're coming back. Shane Vanderhart, caffeinatedthoughts.com. Go there. They've got a great radio show at 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Saturdays with Brian Meyer.
Brian Myers, yep.
And Tom Coates is here, Ryan's here, I'm here, and I'm thankful you're here live on The Truth. Nope.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
It'd be nice to see no, he's Indian. The dot, not 21 minutes after the hour on this gorgeous 30th day of June. We're dating this show because we're talking about some timely things. Shane Vanderhart from caffeinatedthoughts.com. Go to his blog. Very smart blogging. Very smart blogging. And also he and Brian Myers do a show right here on this radio station at 8 a.m. on Saturdays and then again at 6. And you had Ben Carson on last week.
We did, yes. And we're hoping, hopefully to get, it's not settled yet, but I think we're going to have Huckabee on this week.
Good. Well, I'm going to hire you as my producer because well, it's just because of the move. We didn't go after people for a while because we didn't know where we were going to be.
Right.
Well, I had 2 hours spent with Ben on Saturday over at Ed Brown's. Had a small group over there at the Iowa clinics. And,
okay.
Hey, Mac, we need to get Ed Brown on here again one of these days. I can't think of a better guy to talk about the Obamacare stuff.
Sure, let's get him
Ed.
on. Let's get him on. Let's get him booked.
Yeah.
All right. The Supreme Court ruling that says marriage is now legal between same sex. In the Constitution, Article 16 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights declares that men and women of full age without any limitation due to race, nationality, or religion have the right to marry and to found, that's what it says, to found a family. They are entitled to equal rights as to marriage, during marriage, and in its dissolution. Marriage shall be entered into only with the free and full consent of the intending spouses. Does that have to get amended?
I would assume so. But that's UN, so...
That's UN.
Yeah.
Our Constitution doesn't say it.
Our Constitution doesn't even mention marriage.
Okay. All right. So, what do you? Let's just start with you, Tom. What do you think the consequences are?
And we've said before, Mac, when we've discussed this before with some of our guests, much more. Well, we had Sam Clovis on here last week. As I said, he was one of the smarter guys we could get on here. Sam's brilliant. The concern that I have, and I've said it repeatedly, is that we're going to head down the path of Canada. I think all we have to do is look up to Canada for a preview of coming attractions, and not a fun preview. This is going to be a horror show. Mm-hmm. When they have had pastors that have done nothing more from their pulpits other than read Scripture and been accosted, assaulted, put in jail, caused them to put out large amounts of money to defend themselves, and all they've done is read Scripture, not even try to interpret Scripture. Right. Our own religious liberties, which are spelled out in our Constitution as deserving of protective rights, are going to, with this kind of a creative court, they're likely to overlook what's in there and take this as precedent. So I am very concerned, Mac, that not just businesses. You've had the couple up
Dick
from
and Betty Odgaard.
That ended up finally shutting their business down. There have been others around the country, not just individual businesses pulled up to make an example of, but I think the very churches that come out and say, we subscribe to the Bible. We're a biblically based church. We're not going to perform a gay ceremony here, are now going to be assaulted, and there will be panels set up, hate panels, that once you bring yourself up, you are guilty to, you can prove yourself innocent, and it takes money and legal and a lot of things to try to even keep you out of jail, much less massive fines. There was a massive fine out west. Mm-hmm. So this is my concern. If it were to end here, I wouldn't be as concerned. I think you'd never pacify these people, these activists. They take this, they will move on to transgender. Go ahead.
Yeah, this will go forever and ever.
And I'm concerned when I read basically the court opinion, Kennedy's opinion. He had a statement in there regarding religious liberty, and unfortunately, he only mentioned advocacy, that we had the right to advocate for traditional marriage. However, that's not the First Amendment. The First Amendment goes beyond just speech. It's also protecting conscience. And it's great we can advocate for our faith, but I'd like to be able to live my faith, and I'd like to make sure that my conscience is protected. And I've had liberals, tell me that, this is much to do about nothing. You have nothing to worry about. As if we have to just completely ignore what's been happening. Canada is a great example. They also have freedom of religion and freedom of speech in their charter, in their constitution. But you have this movement that's completely run amok, and it's butting up against religious liberty. And this is going to happen in the United States. We're already seeing it happen in the United States. And it's just going to get worse with the Supreme Court ruling, as Justice Alito pointed out in his dissent.
Shane Vanderhart is here. Caffeinated Thoughts. They've got a program here on The Truth, 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Saturdays. Also, his blog, caffeinatedthoughts.com. I love to say this. Talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. If we didn't have someone as liberal, progressive, and dishonest as Obama in the White House, this wouldn't have happened.
Oh, we'd still have this ruling. I have no doubt.
So?
We're dealing with a separate branch of the government. The judicial branch is completely off the rails, and that's something that I think every single presidential candidate needs to address. how we're going to rein in the judiciary. It goes beyond just marriage, okay? This has obviously impacted Obamacare. We're talking about they also just put a stay on Texas abortion law.
Yep.
They had a horrible property rights decision in Kelo, I can never remember how to pronounce that, not that long ago. You have all these issues coming before a court, and we need to make sure that they're actually doing what they're supposed to do, and that's interpret the law, not make law. But we have five, at least 4 or 5 of the justices that seem to be, they want to be political entities. So I'd say, they need to be off the court and they need to run for office.
But they're not going to do that.
No, they're not.
Who can? Can the Attorney General stop this?
No, the Attorney General
has no power.
Has no power over the court. No.
Who does?
Well, basically, Congress can. They can restrict the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court by law. Constitutionally, they have the right to do that. The president has to do a better job vetting potential nominees to the Supreme Court. He needs to, he or she.
When Bush put Roberts in,
right,
everybody thought this guy's our golden boy. He goes to Sunday school. He's an altar boy.
I know, and he was such a disappointment. And I'm sure Sandra Day O'Connor at times was a disappointment to Reagan, and we have Kennedy was also a Reagan appointee that has been disappointing too. But at least with Kennedy, you can never really predict where he's going to, unlike some of the other, liberal four, how they're going to vote. You never know how he's going to vote. So at least you think he's considering the law at some point. However, I think this last decision he made was, even a recent scholar, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he who was pro same-sex marriage said that this ruling had nothing to do with law. And if you read through Kennedy's opinion, it's a motive. It's about the emotion of same-sex marriage. And you know what? A state recognition of marriage has had nothing to do. It has nothing to do with love whatsoever.
Right.
It's mainly about procreation.
Yeah.
That's primarily why the state has been concerned about marriage in the past.
All right, so I don't want to, whoever the presidential candidate that said this got in a lot of trouble, and I don't want to get in trouble, but has that ship sailed? Are we done with gay marriage?
It's going to be very difficult to root it out. I think at the state level, I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing from Mississippi. I think this might be something that states need to consider, getting rid of marriage licenses altogether, because really marriage licenses, those are a fairly new phenomenon. Most of our history, people got married and they didn't need state approval.
Right.
So this is more of a tax thing and more of a contract thing.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. It's a tax thing.
I think it would have been harder to do pre this ruling, but now that Supreme Court has ruled, I think a lot more people, even social conservatives who kind of balked at that idea, are willing to go that route, and that takes the state issue as far as the people issuing feeling like they're put in a position to violate their conscience by issuing a marriage license to a same-sex couple. That takes that off the table. We still have other religious liberty concerns, mind you, because that doesn't impact these businesses that are getting harassed by not wanting to participate in the wedding ceremony.
And Tom, you think it's going to come down to the pulpit? I think they're going to come after churches.
If you think that the churches are going to be exempt once they start taking out private businesses, I think you're mistaken. I look up at Canada. I've seen what's happened up in Canada, and I think that's a blueprint for what we have coming at us.
You already have liberal opinion writers already floating that idea. One, I believe, in Time magazine, who just recently said, let's just get rid of tax-exempt status for all nonprofits, not just churches, but all nonprofits.
You go onto a playground, and if you want to make a point, you go for the biggest guy out there.
Right.
You try to knock them down, and everybody else falls in line. You think the big churches, like the one you go to, is going to be exempt because maybe they don't want to do gay marriages in there? We'll see.
We're waiting.
Frankly, I'd rather see churches say, you know what, this tax-exempt status is nice, but we'll give this up before we pervert the gospel.
Well, and also, by taxing the churches, by getting rid of the not-for-profit tax exemption, doesn't that also give some more power or voice to those churches? Because now they're being taxed, so therefore they have representation.
They're real guys. It's easy to say that. There's real consequences to this.
Right.
How many people are giving money to their churches because they get the tax deductibility? You take that away.
And that's true.
There's some huge financial consequences. It's easy to say, you need to be, with your, and give this up. And many of them would shut their doors because they would not be able to keep them open financially. So don't throw that out cavalierly. That has huge consequences.
Yeah, my point is I'd rather see them do that than
I would too from a principle standpoint, but you got to be practical.
Oh, yeah, I understand. I understand it would be very difficult, and it's unfortunate that people base their donations on tax deductions. That's probably a sad commentary.
Might give a lot less,
right.
So no, don't.
I totally understand where you're coming from.
That's crossing a line that I'm not ready to cross yet. We just need to know that the fight is not over. That they act like the next day that, this is it, the fight is over. It is not. That's just the latest chapter on ongoing drumbeat to drive this country into total secularism.
Right.
I know you're not on Facebook, Tom, but did you read my post that day about getting arrested?
If I did,
well, that's okay.
Yeah.
I did something that I don't usually do. I kind of came in the back door on this, and I said, you and we'll all be sitting here one day, and we'll be arrested. And we'll be charged with hate speech by reading out of the Bible. In fact, we can't even say Bible anymore. We will be called the Way because some smart aleck will say, as you began, therefore you shall end. And that's the end of religious freedom and religious voice as we know it. All right, we're going to take a break. David Young is in the house. Congressman David Young. We'll talk to him when we come back. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Shane Vanderhart from Caffeinated Thoughts. Tom Coates is here. Ryan's producing. And most importantly, you're here. Thanks for listening to The Truth. 99.3 KTIA.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you can just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
Good afternoon, 22 minutes before the top of the hour. Salem Radio Network News at 3 o'clock, and then at 3:03, the Steve Deace. Back live at Afternoon Drive here on 99.3 The Truth. Tom Coates is in the house along with Shane Vanderhart. Tom is just Tom. He's the greatest granddad in the whole world. He took his grandkids and his wife, 6 kids, right?
7. Mac, and I've done the TV commercials. You run them up here.
Yeah.
I count them now. I've got 7.
Well, but you had 6 of them spend the night with just
6
you
spend
and your
the
wife.
night. That's true. That's true.
These are little kids.
Well, the oldest is 11. The youngest that spent the night with us is 4. So,
How did you get in the pool with them?
Pool, some of the rides. I told you I was looking for my litigation attorney after I got off the Dragon the other day. So,
So we're glad to have Tom here. And, of course, Shane Vanderhart has Caffeinated Thoughts radio program at 8 a.m. and 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Saturdays. Also, caffeinatedthoughts.com, one of the better blogs you'll ever read. All right, my special guest today is Congressman David Young. We were very pleased to have David on with us a couple of times before he was elected, and now he's returned, and we're glad to have you back.
It's always a pleasure to be here. We're on our 4th of July work period.
Are you?
Some people call it recess or
I know you're going to
spring break, but
you're probably just busier than a one-arm paper hanger.
Well,
yeah,
close to it. But, 16 counties, and my commitment is to be in every county every month. And so I'm taking advantage of this work period. Was in 4 counties yesterday. Going to be in a few more counties today. And I love the give and take at the town halls I have, the coffee with your congressman.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's how you do it in Iowa.
Mackie drove himself up. He actually drove his own car up.
He did?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, after...
We always knew you were that kind of guy, though. I mean, a genuine guy. But I want to get into a couple of political things, but I first want to ask you this. And it's just act like it's just you and me, okay? What's it like to be a congressman?
Well, you feel the gravity of the situation every day of the office because, when you're representing a district of 700,000+ people, and you have a voting card, and I tell people it's not my card, it's on loan to me from the people of the 3rd District. I take that very seriously. So the issues can really weigh on you. And but I enjoy it. I've got the best bosses in the world. It's not as glamorous as people may think. I drove myself here. I wash my own clothes. I buy my own deodorant. It's...
We're glad you use those things.
Yeah.
So you're
especially the deodorant.
So you're still a man of the people.
I'm David Young. I'm the same guy.
All right. Now,
a different title, bigger responsibilities, but call me David.
But working for Grassley all these years, you've had a peek into that world. So that wasn't so surprising to you of what you would find, the Washington culture and the society and the whole, I'm a big deal now.
People question my sanity because I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah, right. Well, you said that on one of your commercials, I think.
But I having had insights into that world, it prepared me for what to expect. I know a lot of the issues, the politics surrounding them, but the current events change every day. Nobody masters that place, and I don't pretend to. But the Senate is different than the House. The Senate's more methodical and deliberate, and the House is a lot faster. You really have to keep up on things.
Yeah.
And I say to Senator Grassley, we passed this, and this. When's the Senate going to act on this? And he says, well, we got to slow down and take our time with the stuff you folks screw up.
I can hear him say that, too. I can hear him say that. All right. You're on the Appropriations Committee.
I am.
Talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old and tell me what the Appropriation Committee does.
The House Appropriations Committee is the committee that funds the federal government. So when I fought to get on that committee, I thought to myself, I want to be at the table on most, if not all, the issues, because I'm not going out there just to bide my time. When there's gridlock, when the wheels are not, when they're spinning and there's a stop in the action, one thing that always has to get done on Capitol Hill, you've got to fund the federal government. So when that train leaves, that train ends up at the station somewhere. That's where you can really look at the management, do the accountability and oversight of our federal government. Our government is very big, as you know. A lot of the problems out there, we have our issues on policy here and there, but you look at the main headlines, it's management of government. Yeah. Healthcare.gov, a Veterans Affairs Committee, and what they were doing down in Phoenix, the Secret Service, and trying to get rid of them after they were doing in a prostitution scandal, these kind of things. And also, it's very important to be on that committee for somebody from Iowa. In the 70s, we had 8 members of Congress representing Iowa. So those were 8 voices for Iowa.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now we only have 4 members of Congress. And so I thought it was very important to make sure that we watched those dollars to make sure they weren't all going to New York or the policies fomented towards California or Florida, to make sure that Iowa's critical hospitals weren't ignored, agriculture wasn't ignored. And then you have the power of the purse, right? Congress has the power of funding, the power of the purse. So when there are some rules and regulations coming along from either side of the political spectrum with a Republican or Democrat president, we got the power of the purse to stop rules and regulations that are out of control. We just passed an interior appropriation spending bill, which covers the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. We withheld funding for their new Waters of the USA rule. That's devastating to Iowa agriculture. It's devastating.
Hold on. Waters
of the USA. So the EPA wanted to redefine water under the Clean Water Act, navigable waters, which could pretty much have your ditch regulated if you're a farmer, or if you want to do construction, a new development at the edge of town. If there's some rains there, it could hamper your construction and building that development. So the EPA they were stretching their hands out. It was a private property grab in my mind, but we withheld funding for that rule. And then also, we just passed a Labor, Health, and Human Services bill through the Appropriations Committee, 0 funds for Obamacare. So that's where I can be a voice for Iowa and help watch the taxpayer dollars.
So what does that do to Obamacare then?
Well, it's still going to exist in most ways because a lot of the funding comes through taxes. And then the Supreme Court even spoke louder the other day with the subsidies, as you know, and we can get into that. But this court, I think, if you want to talk about the Obamacare ruling, decided that the word state is not the word state. Yeah. The word state and federal are synonymous and can be used interchangeably. So what does that precedent set for other issues across the spectrum regarding state issues, the word federal?
Yeah.
We'll see, right? I don't know. But this is the battle that our founding fathers kind of imagined from time to time would happen. I mean, we've got some severe criticism from Congress to the courts. Sometimes the courts criticize Congress or an administration, but this is that loggerhead that it's come to, and it'll cool itself out eventually. But there were some pretty monumental decisions the other day.
Congressman David Young is our guest. Tom, go ahead.
There are 2 things I want to ask you, David. The first one maybe is a quick one. We met before you won your nomination and then the election. You're a man of some faith. How does your faith, since this has kind of been catapulted into the top Christian talk show station in central Iowa. We've moved to new digs here. We've got a powerful signal. Everybody's very pleased with how this thing is going. But the bulk of the audience are Christian, tending to be conservative folks. Tell them just who David Young is and how your faith impacts on how you do your duties.
You have 1 minute.
1 minute. My heart is for the Lord. I'm a man who seeks wisdom every day, knowing that I am an imperfect man and I fall short every day. But thank the good Lord for grace and mercy, because we all need it, and I know I need it. But born and raised in a small church in a small town in Iowa, the Methodist Church, went to a church camp in junior high at Wesley Woods in Warren County near Lake Aquabi and got
Shot
saved.
a couple commercials there once.
Yeah, met the Lord and have not always had a perfect path, but my parents raised me biblically, and the Bible says you train them up that way, and they'll come back. And so I just thank the Lord every day for the life he's given me, and I want to serve him, and part of that is public service.
All right, David Young, Congressman David Young is our guest. Shane Vanderhart from Caffeinated Thoughts. You got the next question, my friend. Tom Coates here. Ryan's producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Right here on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids? Yeah!
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 10 before the top, Salem Radio Network News at 3 o'clock, and then the Steve Deace. Live, back in Afternoon Drive, here on The Truth, 99.3. Ryan's producing, Tom Coates in the house, along with Shane Vanderhart from Caffeinated Thoughts, their radio program at 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Saturdays. Plus, check out one of the smarter blogs written at caffeinatedthoughts.com. Our special guest, Congressman David Young, home for, and it's not a 4th of July break, man. How many parades are you in? You even know?
4.
4.
Yep. West Des Moines, Windsor Heights, Urbandale, Waukee.
Man, they can't even get me to go to one, let alone wave. Have you got your Barbie doll wave down, like this?
No, but I got some comfortable shoes.
And some Tootsie
I'll
Rolls
be
to
walking
throw.
them.
Yeah. Shane, go ahead. Ask the congressman whatever you want to ask.
Yeah, we were talking about the Obamacare ruling and how we have this court that's making these really landmark decisions, and it appears that we really have more of a political court right now, where you have at least a block of 4 justices that just go in to vote rather than actually make a ruling. How, with the checks and balances present in the Constitution, and with honoring, respecting the separation of powers, it seems like we have a branch of the government that sees itself as supreme. How do we put a check on the judiciary? This really seems like it's starting to run away.
Well, I think the best check is we're not going to get rid of the court like some suggest. There's not going to be term limits on the court. None of them are going to get impeached. Where we really have to focus our attention is these presidential candidates coming in here. One of them, whoever wins it, is going to have probably the ability to nominate 2 to 3 people to this bench. And so we need to make sure that we know from all these candidates, what kind of temperament, what kind of judges are they going to nominate? What kind of people are they going to put up? I want people who understand what the 10th Amendment is, understand states' rights, federalism, constructionist, and then we need to make sure that we also reelect Chuck Grassley to the U.S. Senate, because we want that farmer from New Hartford to be chair of the Judiciary Committee, vetting all of these nominees coming through, and he'll do a good job. And he's very studied, he's professorial, and he's got common sense. And the fact that he's not a lawyer does not bother me whatsoever.
He could just ask simple questions like, what does state mean?
Yeah.
What does a tax mean?
Exactly.
What does marriage mean? Yeah.
Right.
Here's a dictionary if you're not sure. Yeah.
That was crazy. That was just, I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and Ronald Reagan's going to be president again, and we're going to have some common sense, and the president's actually going to be respected by even not only his own party, but by all Americans. And then, of course, I don't wake up and we discover this.
And those issues that I brought up about, some of these presidential candidates are talking about doing this, that, and the other. For the most part, those are interesting concepts. The founding fathers, if they thought those were valid, they would have put them in there. But I think for the most part, these are fundraising ploys for a lot of people running for president.
Could be. I think the founding fathers are probably rolling in their graves right now if they knew what was happening with the court, because Thomas Jefferson has had a lot of things to say about how the Supreme Court could end up being a runaway branch of the government and it literally become an oligarchy if we allow it, if we don't put a check on it.
Sure.
So I think it's important that we look at how we can do that in a reasonable way that's constitutional.
Well, I certainly think their proceedings should be made public and transparent.
Definitely.
I'd like an extra C-SPAN channel, C-SPAN 4 or 5, or call it SCOTUS span.
There you go.
Got SCOTUS care, might as well.
And let's watch these deliberations and proceedings, and it's an education for the American people, too, to then get more engaged with the issues going on in their federal government.
Congressman David Young is our guest. You cover 16 counties.
The Sweet 16.
Right in the middle of central Iowa.
Central Southwest Iowa, yep.
Okay. And we talked a little bit about you on the Appropriations Committee. Talk to me about the trade situation. We've only got a few minutes, but give me an idea of what's going on with the trade situations and what Americans don't know, what we don't know is going on.
Well, first of all, right now the president is negotiating a trade agreement with 11 countries, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP. So he's negotiating that. Congress and myself and many others and the American people, they wanted to make sure that there was a framework around this agreement, whatever it was. That it, number one, that Congress had a vote on it in the end, an up or down vote, that the American public and Congress could read it and see it, and so it wasn't a secret trade deal that was passed. Also, that it did not break U.S. law, and also that if it down the line an agreement was passed and it was changed in any way by our president, that then Congress could revoke it and it was void. And so we passed a Trade Promotional Authority, which is what every president's had since Roosevelt. It's not a new authority. We're not giving Obama or the next president any special powers, but we're putting a check on this president, because I have my trust issues with him, and I know a lot of others do too, to make sure that he doesn't go outside the realm of the congressional objectives, transparency, and accountability. It's a good check on not just this president or any president who wants to do a trade agreement. So we don't know what the final product is of the trade agreement, but we've not voted on that yet, of course. And but Senator Grassley, Senator Ernst, Steve King, Rod Blum, and myself, we voted for Trade Promotional Authority, which is that framework check on this president or any other president in the next 6 years, because that's how long this authorization is on any agreement that may come up, a trade agreement. This president may not get an agreement done.
What's his agenda, do you think?
Well, I think part of it is a legacy.
Okay.
And I'm hoping it's to build a stronger America, and also to instate my agenda here with any trade agreement is, one, make sure it's good for America and we have a market out there to export to. Not only our products, but our values as well, our American values. And we have some kind of influence over this region right next to China, right?
Yeah.
If we don't get in there, China is starting to make deals with them. And do we want China's products and their way of life and influence there, or do we want to take a leadership role as well? Because there's a lack of American leadership in this world right now, and we're seeing it because of this president at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Absolutely.
I don't like to say that, because
I don't like to feel this way.
Yeah, I want the strength from the White House, from whoever's in there and leading the world, and the rest of the world looking to America as that beacon of hope.
You know, the four guys around this table have one king, and that's Jesus.
Amen.
And I don't believe any one of us do something because of an R behind our name. I believe we do it because we think it's the best thing for those 7 grandchildren. 7 grandchildren that we've got and the ones I've got. So when I say something disparaging about the president, I don't like myself. I don't like hearing that. But it's just ridiculous what's going on. All right, well, we're out of time. Congressman, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. Shane, thanks for dropping in. Now you
You're
can
welcome.
Finish your pita pit here.
Yes, I can.
Yep. Tom, thank you for coming, and happy birthday to your lovely wife, Leanne.
And everybody have a happy 4th of July.
That's right. All right. You know what I'm going to ask you to do? And I know you resist. Don't touch that radio dial. I know you want to resist this, but it's important. How about this 4th of July, you forgive somebody that you've been carrying a resentment against for a long time. You forgive them. Give it to God. And in return, as you forgive, you will be forgiven. I'll see you in church.